Asif. So
sorry, Asif. There you go.
Yeah, no worries.
As we were talking earlier on, Asif has a very impressive CV, which leads him up to this point where he works now. And also, I think you're doing Scrum Master work as well, and on a hybrid scale as well there. So there's a lot to take in from that side of it. But we are going to get on to now this idea of navigating through those hybrid frameworks. So Asif, over to you. If you need to share a presentation, go ahead and do it. I'll let you know if we can see it.
All right, sounds good. Let me start sharing. All right. Thank you all for bearing with me. Apologize for the technical issues earlier today, but I can start presenting. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yep, that looks good. Carry on.
Excellent. All right. So good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I keep thinking it's Friday, but happy Monday. Yeah, so pretty much I'm Asif. This is my presentation for today's forum, kind of talking about the frameworks where we're going to navigate through, especially hybrid frameworks for organizations, and pretty much how it ties into revenue intelligence. So a little bit about me. I'm a Bay Area native, lifelong 49ers fan. I had a former arena/semi-professional football playing career here before I branched into this field and got a real job. I'm a two-time California State University East Bay alumni. I finished my undergrad there almost 8 years ago, and then my master's back in 2017. I am certified as a PMP, a certified Agilist, a certified business analysis practitioner, a certified product owner, Scrum Master, a Six Sigma Black Belt, Six Sigma Green Belt. My background is primarily actually in healthcare. I've been working for United Health Groups, Kaiser Permanente, Sutter, Stanford Hospital Clinics, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, but most recently Walgreens on the retail side, and now currently Bank of the West. My current title, as was alluded to, was Vice President, Senior Lead Business Analyst / Scrum Master, hybrid, which is why this presentation is important to me, because I'm a hybrid. So this is kind of what I mean from my interpretation of revenue intelligence. So from what I gathered from this site, people.ai, I'm going to be referencing this article from people.ai a lot for these first couple slides, just because it helped me kind of acclimate myself to the actual formal definition of it, because in the last speaker, Wendy, she was referencing kind of the financial industries and the regulated industries. We do have a different definition, but to your point, it has actually branched. Revenue intelligence has branched out to all industries. So like when I used to work in healthcare, which I appreciated her kind of, bringing that point forward, health revenue and financial initiatives were kind of what I was driving primarily. So what I gathered from people.ai article is that revenue intelligence is an AI-driven, data-centric process that gathers, syncs, and manages data across your customer-facing teams to drive revenue. Marta Lopez, principal at Lopez Research, defines as insights that, quote unquote, weren't impossible before artificial intelligence, and for customer-facing teams, including sales, marketing, and customer success, this is considered a game changer, right? So basically, the way that they kind of differentiate, and I think it's an important differentiation between AI and revenue intelligence (RI). The insights that you weren't able to get, and obviously machine learning and different types of technology, tech trends like blockchain, like the first speaker was alluding to. These are very critical, right, for different components of your organization, but for specifically for revenue intelligence based platforms. We're focused on the insights, and we're focused on the sales, marketing, and customer success, and impacting those areas. So this is kind of what I gathered furthermore from the article, right? 3 problems revenue intelligence system solves. So the first area is uncaptured data. So from the people.ai article, more than 50% of salespeople admit that they don't store lead and customer data in CRM. Sales rep who do already spend almost 30% of their time each week manually entering data. This is an actual issue I have to deal with on a daily basis with the teams I'm leading at the bank. We have specific initiatives focused on anyone who's familiar with the banking space, know your customer laws, AML, anti-money laundering laws. The systems and products we're driving forward in my areas, they're focused on onboarding and KYC, know your customer recertification. So basically with that, there's a manual work item creation process that the relationship managers as well as the remote deposit coordinators have to undergo. And this is basically what we're targeting for us. So the manual data key for the lead and customer data for those new customers that are coming to the bank, we're seeing RMs and RECs spent like almost hours on end, finishing out batch files of onboarding, and it's impacting our business. Most orgs still rely, and here's the next point. Most orgs still rely on this incomplete data for sales reporting, capacity planning, and sales forecasting. It's important to identify the uncaptured data is obviously results in incomplete data, because when you get into your reporting, your capacity planning, your forecasting for your next sales quarter, If you're relying on that previous quarter's data and it's and you have that kind of delta between uncaptured versus captured, you're not going to have an accurate picture. And so what a revenue intelligence system does is it automatically captures all contact and activity data in the sales process from customer-facing teams and populates the CRM in the right opportunities and the right accounts. It eliminates manual data entry and creates a reliable, accurate CRM, right? So reliability, accuracy, eliminate manual data entry. I mean, I don't know why, but that's my bane, the bane of my existence, the manual data entry. And we're trying to eliminate that and trying to ensure that we're able to kind of make that seamless for our customers as well as, you know, our actual, you know, internal branch managers for different types of clients is key. It's key for some of the products I'm driving for onboarding. Silo data. Data that is successfully captured is siloed in marketing, sales, or customer success. And there's a notorious lack of collaboration between sales and marketing teams, which means that your customer misses out on customer trends, opportunities, who don't use a quote unquote single source of truth when it comes to interactions with customers. Another bane of my existence. Basically, we have all these different disparate data sources, MDM, master data management systems, and also other data warehouses. And so basically, they're not talking to each other, right? And we have different data warehouses for different functions, for different data that has to be stored. You know, for example, even our internal employee, there's a separate table for that versus the customer table. And, you know, even though they're all classified under the PII, you know, personal information, personal, I guess, proprietary information. I forgot what the actual acronym stands for, the PII, but that's pretty much all of our data is pretty much PII that's sensitive to our customer, sensitive to our internal employees or resources. They're all siloed in these different areas, these different data repositories, right? So what a revenue intelligence system does, it eliminates the silos by capturing all the data across the functions in real time and pulls it into a single platform that serves as a single source of truth for your organization. That's key, right? Because if you're able to pull it from all these different, you know, different data warehouses, data lakes, whatever you wish to call them, right? It makes it easier. And it's obviously, to the next point, it's trustworthy data that gets everyone on the same page, and everyone's able to use that data to make better enterprise-wide decisions, right? Because you're able to kind of, you know, see the full picture and make better decisions. You know, data-driven decision making is a key, not just with RI, revenue intelligence, but artificial intelligence. Outdated data. Average B2B organization database typically doubles every 12 to 8 months, and with 1 in 4 contacts in the typical database containing critical errors, your CRM can definitely become an expensive, unreliable mess with missing contacts and activity data, right? Because people change jobs, they change titles, and often don't update their LinkedIn until a few months into a new job. You know, for me, sometimes it's a few years. But I mean, the fact is that if you're able to update, you know, kind of to the point, the previous area that the revenue intelligence system addresses, silo data, being able to update in real time. When you're able to update in real time, you pretty much mitigate the risk of outdated data, right? So the revenue intelligence system automatically tracks and updates changes in contacts, public data, email, title, phone address in real time, so that your CRM stays up to date. And your marketing sales reps can truly, you know, kind of see the data and the CRM to be right when they plan, you know, a marketing campaign, sales campaign, and have to make necessary calls. And all 3 of these are basically from the same article that I referenced in the previous slide, this people.ai, and the link's here. So I think whoever's running this presentation can send this to you guys at the end of it so you can reference that. Revenue intelligence flow, right? So review analysis, comprehensive insight, study comparison, forecasting, real-time information. It goes through these phases, these checkpoints to kind of get to that, you know, area of realization of real-time updates. And basically, you know, it's pretty seamless flow. It's pretty easy, I guess, like I would call it a simple flow, right? But each one of these areas, you know, are very complex. I'm not going to get into each one of these, but I just want you guys to see this because it kind of segues into why the framework's important too. So here's an actual example of like how it actually looks, right? So you have this very touchless platform, right? You have all these multiple data sources. For example, utility billing, customer care, workforce management, GIS. And then you have your artificial intelligence methods, your machine learning engine, which has the risk model and your financial return model. And it basically has detection, selection, and managing criteria. So you can inspect your targets selection, you can inspect your results. It's a two-way feed, right? Flowing back and forth. Your intelligence center services, you know, pretty much they use knowledge-based applications, performance enhancement, machine learning tuning, right? So that's basically where your intelligence center services is. And this is just basically an ecosystem for revenue intelligence. I mean, it's pretty seamless, right? Your artificial AI, you know, kind of with your models, and then basically things flowing in and out from your target selection, your results, and your data sources, you know, which was pretty much addressed in the previous slide, or kind of an area that was addressed in the previous slide, kind of taking that silo data and pulling all that in. So what does the framework have to do with revenue intelligence, right? The revenue intelligence platform data flow is indicative of a product that can be delivered under Agile or Waterfall. But multiple organizations and teams tend to see Agile as more beneficial than Waterfall for benefit realization, meaning the end result, right? The end result of a seamless, harmonized ecosystem within a revenue intelligence platform. But this is exactly why the hybrid frameworks are some of the choice frameworks for many enterprise organizations who are delivering revenue intelligence platforms today. Because of the fact that you're pulling in from all these data sources and the amount of time it takes to put that in motion and then have this harmonized ecosystem of AI, your models, and all your anticipated results and outcomes coming in and back in a two-way feed is pretty much, it can be a multi-year initiative, right? And so that's why sometimes it's waterfall benefits, and I'll get into what each one of these frameworks have kind of to offer, but kind of why this hybrid framework is helpful, because some organizations are in the process of delivering these platforms while they're transforming to either Agile or Waterfall. So Agile versus Waterfall. Agile is one of the most popular forms of software delivery across the industry today. Multiple organizations are converting to Agile frameworks, whether it's Scrum, Kanban, XP, to ensure there's a variety of options to tailor to the enterprise. SDLC, Systems Development Lifecycle Management, is another popular framework. One of the most popular SDLC methodologies is Waterfall. The key distinctions between Agile and Waterfall are the cycle time delivery and the iterative approach versus delivering end-to-end functionality, wholesale per release cycle, not to mention the variances of current Agile SDLC frameworks that exist across the industry today. So the examples of these frameworks are SDLC-Kanban, SDLC-XP, SDLC Scrum, right? And so these are the kind of hybrid frameworks that we're talking about. So Agile versus Waterfall, here's a graphical representation, right? You start with your requirements, you go from planning, design, develop, release, tracking, monitoring, and that's your Agile development lifecycle. Continuous cycles, small, high-functioning collaborative teams tend to function better in the Agile framework. Flexible and continuous evolution, as well as customer involvement, is pretty heavy, throughout this development cycle. Waterfall, you define your requirements, design, code, tests, implement, right? Sequential linear stages, upfront planning and depth communication, best for simple and changing projects, close project manager involvement. Very little customer involvement throughout this. And the reason why this graphical representation is pretty important is because if you remember the flow of revenue intelligence, it's pretty much a one-way feed. It's not really cyclical, right? Even though a system itself could be cyclical in terms of getting your results back and make sure your model's turning out different types of predictions and analytics. This flow is kind of why it's sometimes organizations tend to favor the hybrid framework. And here's an example, requirements analysis, design, coding, test, implement, deploy. So this is the kind of overarching, right? But then pretty much from here, the collaborative model will be the product backlog, the sprint backlog refinement to your sprints, which your daily standard 24 hours and your 2 to 4 week sprint cycles to your potentially shippable product. And so they basically, this refinement will come into play, just kind of, collaborative hybrid. It will come into play just like around here, the requirements design, so, and essentially this is how, you can get little pieces and iterative pieces of the software, but not actual like wholesale like software like you get in Waterfall at the end of the Waterfall development cycle. Agile Manifesto, we value individual interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change or following a plan. So why hybrid? Enterprise organizations undergoing full-scale transformations may not be able to achieve best practices in a timely fashion, right? Waterfall is not a speed framework for software development, and deliverable results will only show at the end of the development cycle, so it could take months or even years before the customer sees the final product. Agile shortens that delivery time. It makes it easy to gather feedback in the early stages to better suit customer requirements. And the customer is heavily involved with Agile. I think it's a key point to notice that. So as it pertains to revenue intelligence, right? As your models evolve and you start gaining results and you start involving your customer to kind of see what insights is. And even if you're not involving your customer, even if you're just gathering your insights, you're able to kind of get that feedback quicker. And I think that's the whole point of revenue intelligence from a model perspective, to get that insight and analytics as quick as possible to help maintain accuracy and start, your sales campaigns, marketing campaigns. So continued kind of more reasons, the shortened is the Agile Waterfall, it's still the the hybrid model basically shortens designs, it shortens analysis and planning. It lets you define project frames, kind of like, I guess, the budget and the time of delivery. So I guess certain things such as like when you want to deliver and kind of what phases and what checkpoints you want to have, your milestones, you're able to define that a little bit easier with your Waterfall hybrid model because it's more creative. You're not really kind of married to the ceremonies of Scrum or anything within Waterfall in a hybrid framework. You're able to maintain compliance with standards. If there's documentation you still need to gather from SDLC controls, this hybrid framework will let you do that. enhance collaboration, and pretty much when adoption culture of Agile is problematic, a hybrid culture is a good step. And that's pretty much what I kind of encountered on my career. Many organizations try to get too ambitious with their Agile transformation. So hybrid's a good first step to kind of get to that point of best practices with Agile. So here's a real life case study of kind of my personal examples that I was kind of alluding to. Organization A was undergoing enterprise-wide Agile transformation. Target phase one of the multi-year plan was end of the year, so end of that first year. The KPIs for success were your standard metrics of stories committed versus delivered, team velocity, sprint reports, and burn rates, so meaning burning up and burn down charts. Teams were assessed for following the framework by both the Scrum Master, Agile Coach, Agile Practitioner, and the teams which were able to adhere the most or the closest to the approved best practices were incentivized through rewards, and competitions were encouraged amongst teams to promote Scrum adoption. And the outcomes were some teams were able to adopt faster than others. KPIs were inconsistent based on maturity levels. And it's important to note that because different teams within your organization have different maturity levels, which is why different organizations are at different maturity levels based on their teams, right? It comes down to the team level before you frame up to your release training. Incentivization was not factored to that maturity level because, certain maturity levels, certain learning styles may be able to adapt faster or adopt faster than others. Resistance to change was evident, right? Because most of the teams who were under the Waterfall framework, they complained about the lack of time to develop, versus being able to, I guess, the sprinting versus the actual, months on end to develop and come up with creative solutions in the Waterfall versus Agile. That was something that they complained about heavily. Scope did scale back due to misunderstanding the PI cycle, and many end-year goals were at risk of not being met. Because obviously the organization bit off more they can chew, and we had to scale back drastically on our plan. So this is why hybrid frameworks work, right? In the example organization A, it was evident that there are many problems, right? Many organizations aren't scalable, right? From a team level, vertically to the release train, due to lack of maturity, like I just talked about, and the misunderstanding of how Agile Waterfall best practices should be adhered to tends to interfere with your day-to-day activities, like your day-to-day development, day-to-day planning, any type of stand-ups, types of, and all those type of interoperative kind of coordinations. These are why, the hybrid framework helps kind of allow that day-to-day to flow a little bit more seamlessly than having to stick to a rigorous framework. Certain initiatives have both tactical and strategic components, which can be better addressed through a hybrid model. Creativity and speed of delivery can be addressed better through the hybrid. So here's like another view of like a framework. It's called Fragile, Waterfall, Agile, and Hybrid Fragile, right? Planning, analyzing, design, build, test, correction, test, deploy, Waterfall, Agile right here, analyze, plan, design, test, build, test, get back to deploy, and you go back to analyze the planning again. So basically your hybrid Waterfall for the Fragile, you're planning and analyzing, you design, build, plan, and then you test, and then you correct, you design, build, plan, you test. You just keep correcting. So it integrates kind of, this is a better view in my opinion of kind of what a Waterfall Agile framework looks like, a hybrid. Basically, when you're able to integrate both these processes and flows, you're able to kind of, have the best of both worlds and just continue iterating. So navigation. So it's key to identify what your initiative is and how you want to approach that initiative, because basically the way I look at it when I spoke to my Agile coach, I look at it from attacking a problem, right? You want to attack the problem as opposed to just implementing controls and trying to adhere to those controls, right? Because when you attack the problem and you attack kind of, the framework that's under, basically you'll understand what needs to occur, what key metrics and success criteria need to occur for your team success. So Waterfall is a longer methodology, which is set forth on delivering a working piece of software as conclusion, right? So you can utilize principles such as planning prior to your sprints, but you're not going to be able to have iterations. This is going to be a working piece of software at the end. You're going to need to maintain project controls for your Waterfall project at a SharePoint or Confluence. Agile is shorter. So, like I said, not delivering working piece of software, but you will be able to get iterations of that software at the end of each sprint. Maintain Agile controls such as a team charter, working agreement, features, roadmap are critical as well to your project success. Importance of project controls, hybrid initiatives, you need to have set of controls. SDLC can ensure the project is aligned with documentation process standards. Agile controls can ensure that you're aligned with Agile best practices. Third-party controls can ensure any type of third-party controls which are necessary for initiatives are captured and readily available for reference. And then utilize industry-approved tools such as Jira and Confluence as centralized repositories for the artifacts are imperative as in the event of audits from your project manager or council audit or any other segment of the organization that's responsible for auditing those controls. Exemptions as substitutions of the controls. Exemptions are critical to promoting Agile. Certain standards or protocols may not be relevant to either Agile, Waterfall, or both frameworks. but ensuring that there's a level of flexibility in the admin of not being able to provide all controls is critical to the program success. But pretty much, hey, we're contrary to the Agile Manifesto, because Agile Manifesto says that we're not supposed to be doing documentation and all these robust types of controls, and ensuring that we're maintaining alignment with our framework, right? So the important thing to note is that it's a bendable and flexible framework. Tailoring the framework to organizational needs is one of the reasons why these frameworks exist and why organizations are leaning with Agile. Although documentation is not crux of the Agile Manifesto, it's important to track key decisions, team charter, team working agreement, and all other team-related artifacts. So in our real-life case study, organization B is under a hybrid waterfall agile framework. Development prefers to use their own model using 2 JIRAs and having 2 separate stand-ups during a business stand-up, or opposed to one singular stand-up call. Development eventually hindered, and the metrics reflected a lack of team progress from both the team velocity and story points perspective. Not pushing back and seeing how metrics falter from CEO perspective was the key in getting the team's buy-in to going to adopting the hybrid framework. Because when you're using 2 different tools and you have 2 different stand-ups, you're pretty much siloed, right? And you're not able to really tackle the problem as a team. So that's kind of why it was easy for me to let the team fail and fail fast, and then get the CEO in to kind of get them to buy into the actual framework of a singular stand-up and a singular tool to kind of track all the work. So empowering teams, regardless of whether it's Agile, Waterfall, or some other variants of SDLC Agile, key objective of any framework is to not only solve problems, but to empower the team. So some teams may thrive better in Waterfall, some teams may thrive better in Agile, right? Some may prefer aspects of both, right? But understanding the hybrid model is set forth not only for the organization, but for specifically the team is crucial, because your team is what's going to drive your success in these frameworks and in your product delivery. Our roles evolve, in Waterfall, you have project manager and your scrum master in Agile, business analyst in Waterfall versus your product owner in Agile. Development, same, pretty much remains the same, Waterfall versus Agile. There's similarities and differences in functions and expectations of the roles, and it's supposed to be expected as a result of the methodology. But just knowing the difference in the terms of kind of, how they have to operate within the, kind of the different cycles and different ceremonies and the different time frames in each framework is key to understanding the success of each role. So adapting your mindset in closing, right? Adaptability is the greatest asset any leader can possess in a hybrid environment, and being adaptable is a key component of Agile is critical to establishing yourself in this team structure and getting that buy-in. But essentially, from the outlook perspective of revenue intelligence and AI, as organizations continue to adapt AI and revenue intelligence model platforms for customer onboarding, predictive models for sales and forecasting, especially in the financial sector, the outlook, in my opinion, is very bright for emerging technologies, and especially in the banking space for both revenue intelligence and AI. As products evolve, frameworks evolve, this is why we should not only focus on the product, on the end value, but how we deliver, right? That's why the framework is so important, because how we deliver it will also help drive results and outcomes for our customer. Because, for example, in the Agile framework, we have our customer involved. We have that voice to the customer very, very kind of succinctly defined, and we're able to kind of get those insights a lot easier than we would in a waterfall framework. And I guess last but not least, remember the customer's always right. The whole point of revenue intelligence AI is that you never lose sight of your customer. So, and that is it for me.
Nice. Whoosh. Thank you very much, Asif. Great. Let me just put a couple of questions to you that have come through here. This first one is specifically looking at sales and marketing. Now, I know you mentioned sales and forecasting and how they are integrated in it. What do you see revenue intelligence systems, how do you see them affecting sales and marketing, especially depending on which framework they're working under?
Well, I think, and that's a good point. Obviously, based on the framework that you're delivering, right, your customer impact, or kind of your customer, I would say that your interfacing, kind of that relationship and that dynamic of your customer is going to vary, right? So the sales and marketing component of that is going to be impacted by how closely you're able to get those insights from your customer, right? Based on how you're performing for your previous quarter, where your last campaign kind of results and outcomes were, right? And so I think a revenue intelligence platform, I guess I'm not gonna focus on the framework on top of the platform, right? But the platform itself is there to address those concerns. So to kind of align what those insights are, right, from your previous campaigns, and kind of you can use that to identify and make some predictive analytics and models to see how you can come up with a better sales and marketing campaign for your customer, right? Because the ultimate end goal of revenue intelligence is that, for example, for us, when we're onboarding new customers, we have to come up with a new sales campaign to say, hey, we're better than the other guys, right? And so the way we come about that is basically, hey, like here's how quickly we're able to onboard you guys versus X, Y, and Z bank or whoever, right? So that's kind of our method of impact of I guess, sales and marketing. We use our Revenue Intelligence platform for onboarding, but every organization is going to differ in their needs. So.
And you mentioned right at the start, and it has come up before today, about that idea that to start with, more than anything else, we're starting to look at, you know, saving time using CRM systems.
Right.
Is that kind of where a lot of this begins, really? You know, and then a lot of all the, you know, there are other challenges that it solves along the way, but is that kind of where this begins first off, that essential time for the human component, which is, you know, the sales rep?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I think that's a very important point, Richard, because if you remember kind of, you know, the People.ai article, which kind of talked about the whole kind of reason or the business case for a revenue intelligence platform, is the fact that there's a lot of manual data entry and a lot of time is being wasted on that, right? And so the idea is that your CRM is supposed to simplify your end-to-end process, you know, with all your predictive analytics, your model, but also it's supposed to save time, you know, for your customer and provide more value for yourself as an enterprise and as a business for marketing and sales. So,
and essentially, I suppose we're saying that revenue intelligence is something we insert into CRM. It's an approach we take into it.
Correct. Yeah, it's an approach. It's not something that you can just plug in. You know, it's pretty much an approach because your CRM is pretty much your end all, right? So.
Yeah. So there's a bit, you know, like we've seen it here before, that the culture shift and the requirements of teams is can be a big ask.
Right. So it varies on the team, varies on your requirements, varies on your platform. So a lot of things.
But the tools are there to assess that before you.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So.
Okay. Asif, look, thanks for the presentation. Fantastic to have you here and some great energy getting through that. And, you know, as we said, we'll make things available for people at the end of the session should they want to know more.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Asif. See you soon.